Then the disciples went back to their homes, but Mary stood outside the tomb crying. As she wept, she bent over to look into the tomb and saw two angels in white seated where Jesus' body had been, one at the head and the other at the foot. They asked her, "Woman, why are you crying?" "They have taken my Lord away," she said, "and I don't know where they have put him." At this she turned around and saw Jesus standing there, but she did not realize that it was Jesus. "Woman," he said, "why are you crying? Who is it you are looking for?" Thinking he was the gardener, she said, "Sir, if you have carried him away, tell me where you have put him, and I will get him." Jesus said to her, "Mary." She turned toward him and cried out in Aramaic, "Rabboni," which means teacher. And Mary was a different person because Jesus Christ had talked to her, had met her, had been with her again after the resurrection. I think of the people who believe in Jesus Christ, who were with him when he walked on this earth, who believed and started the whole church all over the world after Jesus ascended into heaven. And I'm thinking, they must be amazing people. They must be real heroes. They must be people who get it right, who know the truth, who have made promises in their hearts, and who are so committed that they will put up with anything. They will go anywhere. They will always speak God's truth, and they will change other people's lives. These are heroes. And when I think of that, I get scared. Because, oops, if they're heroes, what does that say about most of us? Is there any way we can keep up with those people who really follow Jesus? Well, I love these texts. They help us to look back and look at that a little more carefully. And we're going to look at a couple of those early figures and note that maybe the word hero isn't the best word for them. Think about Simon Peter. He's one of these guys that came running to the tomb. Think back a little bit earlier in Peter's relationship with Jesus. We call it the time when Peter denied Jesus. You remember that incident? Let's read about that a little bit. Jesus and Peter are talking here, and Jesus knows what's coming. Jesus says, and now all the disciples are gathered there together, and Jesus says to them, "You will all fall away," Jesus told them. Peter declared, "Even if all fall away, I will not." "I tell you the truth," Jesus answered, "today, yes, tonight, before the rooster crows twice, you yourself will disown me 3 times. But Peter insisted emphatically, "Even if I have to die for you, I will never disown you." And all the others said the same. I like that part. All the others said the same. Peter isn't the only one here. Huh? Yeah. Oof. Just a little bit later here, we're in Mark chapter 14 yet. I'm in verse 66 now. While Peter, now Jesus is with all of these people railroading him in this court trial, making up lies about him. They're going to make sure that he has to be killed. And Peter is trying to watch. He's trying to follow along. While Peter was below in the courtyard, one of the servant girls of the high priest came by. When she saw Peter warming himself, she looked closely at him. "You also were with that Nazarene, Jesus," she said. But he denied it. "I don't know or understand what you are talking about," he said. And he went out into the entryway. When the servant girl saw him there, she said again to those standing around, "This fellow is one of them." Again, he denied it. After a little while, those standing near said to Peter, "Surely you are one of them, for you are a Galilean." He began to call down curses on himself, and he swore to them, "I don't know this man you are talking about." Immediately, the rooster crowed the second time. Then Peter remembered the word Jesus had spoken to him, "Before the rooster crows twice, you will disown me 3 times." And he broke down and wept. Is this the picture of a hero? Well, maybe there's another word we can use at the moment. Maybe here's a man who has faith, who's not perfect. He doesn't get it all right. We know Peter made all sorts of dumb comments and messed up numerous times. But he stayed there. Remember where all of them heard Jesus say, "You're going to disown me." Peter said, No, I'll never do it. And remember it said there, and they all heard this? Well, where are they now? Peter's the one who stayed there, who kept his nose in where it was dangerous to see what was going on. The rest of them, as far as we know, they took off. Heroes, maybe that's not the word, but for Peter, faith. He's watching, he's yearning, he's hanging in there. He wants to be close to Jesus. Yeah. Another of those early followers, one of the 12 disciples, is Thomas. And he had too been with Jesus for several years, a believer, a follower. And is he a hero? Well, one of the things that we know about Thomas, and this now is right after Jesus rose from the dead, and remember he comes back and appears to many different people in different settings, including to many of the disciples. And one time, one of these appearances, he comes to the disciples where Thomas is, who hadn't seen him alive before. Now I'm in John chapter 20 again, verse 24. Now Thomas, one of the 12, was not with the disciples when Jesus came. So the other disciples told him, "We have seen the Lord." But he said to them, "Unless I see the nail marks in his hands, and put my finger where the nails were, and put my hand into his side, I will not believe it." A week later, his disciples were in the house again, and Thomas was with them. Though the doors were locked, Jesus came and stood among them and said, "Peace be with you." Then he said to Thomas, "Put your finger here. See my hands. Reach out your hand and put it into my side. Stop doubting and believe." Thomas said to him, "My Lord and my God."
Amen.
Amen. So Thomas had to ask. He didn't take it for granted that just because somebody said Jesus was alive again,